The Mannheim marketplace was alive. The square bustled with shoppers and vendors, laughter and chatter filled the air. Children darted between stalls, their eyes wide with wonder. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow on the vibrant scene. A gentle breeze carried the scent of freshly baked bread and blooming flowers. Anna, a young woman with fiery red hair, strolled through the market. Her basket overflowed with fresh produce. She was humming a cheerful tune, her mind already crafting a delicious dinner. She stopped at a flower stall, captivated by a bouquet of sunflowers. The vendor, a plump woman with rosy cheeks, smiled warmly. "A fine choice, Fraulein," she said, her voice thick with the melody of Mannheim. Across the square, an old man sat on a bench. He watched the world go by, a serene smile gracing his wrinkled face. He had been coming to this market for over 50 years. He had seen it all: joy, sorrow, peace, and conflict. But today, there was only peace. A group of teenagers laughed hysterically as they shared a large pretzel. They epitomized the spirit of the marketplace, vibrant, alive, and full of hope. A man walked into the market. He seemed unremarkable, just another face in the crowd. He wore a nondescript jacket and jeans. His head was down, his face obscured by a baseball cap. He moved with a quiet purpose, his eyes darting from side to side. He blended in, almost invisible amidst the throngs of people. He stopped at a fruit stall, pretending to admire the apples. His fingers twitched nervously. He glanced at his watch, a look of urgency flashing across his face. The vendor, a young man with a kind smile, offered him a sample. "Try this, sir," he said, his voice brimming with pride. The man in the baseball cap declined politely, but his eyes betrayed his anxiety. A scream pierced the air, shattering the peaceful ambiance of the marketplace. It was Anna. Her eyes were wide with terror, her face pale as snow. The man in the baseball cap stood behind her. He held a knife, its blade glinting menacingly in the sunlight. Panic surged through the crowd like a shockwave. People screamed, their voices laced with terror. They scattered in all directions, desperate to escape the sudden violence. The marketplace, once a symphony of life, transformed into a scene of chaos and fear. The old man on the bench, his peaceful reverie shattered, watched in disbelief. The vendor at the fruit stall stood paralyzed. He stared at the unfolding scene, his mind struggling to comprehend the sudden eruption of violence. The sweet smell of apples turned sour in his nostrils, replaced by the metallic tang of fear. His eyes locked onto the knife in the attacker's hand, his blood running cold. He just snapped. A woman sobbed, clutching her young daughter close. Her eyes darted back to the scene, her voice trembling with terror. 1 minute everything was fine. The next, a young man, his face pale and drawn, stumbled back from the chaos. He fumbled for his phone, his fingers shaking so badly he could barely dial the emergency number. "There's been a stabbing," he gasped into the phone, his voice barely a whisper. The shrill wail of approaching sirens sliced through the cacophony of the marketplace. 2 police cars, lights flashing and sirens blaring, screeched to a halt at the edge of the square. Officers, their faces grim and determined, jumped out of the vehicles, their hands instinctively reaching for their weapons. "Everyone stay back! Clear the area!" A commanding voice boomed through the air. Officer Schmidt, a tall, imposing figure with years of experience etched on his face, took charge of the situation. He surveyed the scene, his eyes scanning for the attacker, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. His partner, Officer Bauer, a young woman with fiery red hair pulled back in a tight bun, moved swiftly towards the injured woman. She knelt beside Anna, her voice calm and reassuring. "Help is on its way, ma'am." The crowd parted instinctively, creating a path for the officers. The police were here now, symbols of order and protection in a world suddenly turned upside down. Officer Schmidt, his eyes locked on the assailant, drew his weapon. The man in the baseball cap was now backing away, his eyes darting wildly, his chest heaving. He still clutched the knife, his knuckles white with tension. "Drop the weapon!" Schmidt's voice boomed across the marketplace, amplified by the loudspeaker on his shoulder. "Get on your knees! Do it now!" His tone was firm, authoritative, leaving no room for misunderstanding. The assailant hesitated, his eyes flickering between the knife in his hand and the circle of police officers closing in on him. The knife clattered to the cobblestones, a sharp metallic sound that echoed through the silent square. With the weapon on the ground, Officer Bauer and another officer rushed forward, tackling the assailant to the ground. More sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer. An ambulance, its lights painting the cobblestones red and blue, arrived on the scene. Paramedics, their movements swift and practiced, rushed towards Anna, their faces etched with concern. They gently lifted her onto a stretcher, their voices a soothing murmur amidst the receding chaos. The crowd watched, a mixture of relief and apprehension etched on their faces. The immediate danger was over, the assailant apprehended, but the shock of the event lingered in the air like the smell of gunpowder after a battle. Officer Bauer, her face now pale but composed, emerged from the crowd surrounding the apprehended assailant. She walked towards her partner, who was giving a statement to a man in a suit, presumably a detective. "Stable," Bauer replied, her voice catching slightly, but shaken, understandably. "Paramedics said the knife missed any major arteries. She's lucky." Schmidt nodded, a grim satisfaction settling in his gut. They had done their job, prevented a tragedy from becoming a catastrophe. The crowd began to disperse, slowly at first, then in a steady stream. People hugged loved ones, their embraces tight as if reassuring themselves that they were safe, that life went on. The vendors, their faces etched with a mixture of shock and resignation, began the task of righting overturned stalls, picking up scattered merchandise. The old man, leaning heavily on his cane, watched the scene unfold from a distance. He yearned for the peace and tranquility of his youth, for the days when the marketplace was a place of joy, not fear. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the square, a sense of normalcy slowly returned to the marketplace. The police had cordoned off the area where the attack had occurred, but life, as it always does, began to reclaim its space. Vendors helped each other repair damaged stalls, their shared experience forging a bond of solidarity. Strangers exchanged stories, their voices hushed, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock and resilience. The attack had shaken them, but it had also brought them together, reminding them of their shared humanity. Anna's neighbors, their faces etched with worry, gathered outside her apartment building, waiting for news of her condition. They brought flowers and cards, their small gestures a testament to the strength of their community. "We're here for you, Anna," one woman said, her voice thick with emotion. The next day, the Mannheim marketplace was open for business. The rhythm of life, though momentarily disrupted, had resumed its beat. People went about their daily routines, their steps a little lighter, their smiles a little brighter, grateful for the gift of another day. The attack had left its mark, a scar on the collective psyche of the community. But it had also revealed their strength, their resilience, their capacity for compassion in the face of adversity. The marketplace, once a symbol of vulnerability, now stood as a testament to the enduring human spirit. The old man sat on his bench, his eyes closed, his face bathed in the warmth of the morning sun. He listened to the sounds of the marketplace, the laughter of children, the chatter of vendors, the gentle murmur of conversations. The Mannheim market scare was a stark reminder that even in the most ordinary of places, darkness can lurk. It was a day that tested the spirit of a community. Yet, it also revealed its strength. The random act of violence, though terrifying, did not break Mannheim. It brought its people closer. In the aftermath, there was fear, yes, but also an outpouring of support and unity. The people of Mannheim showed the world that even in the face of chaos, hope and humanity can prevail. The market, forever marked by the event, became a symbol of their resilience, a testament to their unwavering spirit.